found my old venomous reptile license, and I guess 2000 after 2020, 2002, I went ahead and just gave up after so many years. And I thought that when maybe a year and a half ago, that I was going to actually come back and renew it. A lot of laws and rules have changed to make it more difficult, more inspection stuff, and it seemed like the Florida Wildlife Commission was sort of against, class 3 owners and venomous owners and class 1 and 2, private ownership of those things. There are, I guess, few or no game wardens. Game wardens in the olden days had like a law certificate, like as far as like an officer of the law, and they had zoology, had to have a zoology degree. Nowadays, they're just cops that are working for FWC, and things have gotten way more difficult. I mean, I could probably easily get relicensed, but keeping up with all of the rules and this and that, it's just, when you're used to kind of free-flowing, you do not really want to put your name out there, yourself out there for venomous. We started as an aviary, as a family aviary. We had macaws and cockatiels, cockatoos, conures, and a few, African grays, Amazons, and yada yada. And we had quite a few at one time. And I had personal pets, that were reptiles. We had a place called Hogtown Herpetological Society, I believe it was, outside of Gainesville, run by Doug. I think his last name was Foster. And at the time, we would go there, and many of the employees that worked there for the purpose of getting venomous certification. And at the time, when you got certified, you got all your hours, or your exam plus your hours. You got the license for all venomous reptiles except sea snakes. So Gila monsters, beaded lizards, cobras, coral snakes, rattlesnakes, vipers, pit vipers, cat snakes, mangrove snakes and stuff like that, cat-eyed snakes. You could get gaboon vipers or whatever you wanted with one license. I loved animals. We had skunks, we've had ferrets, we've had, all kinds of things. And I thought, just reptiles in general were beautiful. And we've had fish tanks, turtles, tortoises, box turtles, you name it. We've had a lot of it. We always caught snakes in the backyard, and my dad kind of pushed, the love for animals, even though kind of like in his last 20 years or so of life, he kind of went away from reptiles for whatever reason. Maybe you gain a fear of, sometimes you're born with that fear and you have that fear for a long time. Maybe sometimes you gain a fear as you get older. I had black Pakistan cobras that I bred. I had, and my favorite was a black neck spitting cobra, a male that we got from Diamond Reptiles, or Mitch Diamond. And we did me and the guy that did the that I got my hours from did like a group order, because we had to by law ship them to the Jacksonville airport. We could not go to a closer airport. Only certain airports or plane companies or whatever, airlines would ship them, like I said, only to certain airports. So we went to pick up some one day, and sometimes he would pick them up without me. It was like, I don't know, 5, 6 p.m. We waited till like 3 or 4 p.m. because they kept going from, they were supposed to be on this flight, then they were supposed to be on the next flight. Finally, I think the third flight, as we were fixing to go home, they said, okay, we got your package. Egyptian cobras and I don't know what else he had. I think he had some red spitters or something in that shipment. I never really been into the leopard gecko and corn snake scene. I never really, went to the ball python and crested gecko scene, even though I had, ball pythons in the past. That's kind of what you would start, either a corn snake or a ball python when we started. Maybe a milk snake or something, or king snake. Some of them can be a little bit feisty, but what's weird is I had California kings, black and white striped, and one of them was crazy. He would try to eat himself, and he was not hungry. We fed him all the time. Then the female was the most gentle snake we'd ever had. It almost seemed like she craved. She knew her owner. She craved, being held and stuff for whatever reason. And a lot of people say that's hoopla, that, they're just looking for warmth. The male wasn't like that. He would bite you. He would bite himself. He would go crazy. And there are a lot of, like, kind of feisty or nervous or flighty snakes in that kind of milk snake range, and that's just a generalization. They're not all like that. I've had Mexican milk snakes, Stewart's king snakes, and Mexican black king snakes, and I think Appalachia king snakes. What else have I had? Thyers king snakes, or variable king snakes, and a lot of stuff. So I eventually moved on to joining, my the family business, Avery, kind of, linking my reptile stuff to that as a class 3 license. And eventually I would have about 250 to 300 reptiles and arachnids and stuff at one time. And I'll convey a story. So Mario, which I probably never even talked to this guy, I'm not sure. From, you may know him from Tiger King, the guy down south that had Zoological Imports 2000. I called him. They were supposed to be like a wholesale place. So I called him, ordered a bunch of ball pythons, Amazon tree boas, African rock pythons, probably a few other things. And they shipped DHL. And when they got to the warehouse, the actual snakes, for some reason they got out of their package. And they were all over the DHL warehouse. I'm not sure if this was Jacksonville or what. None of the employees that were currently, in the warehouse, would catch the snakes. So everybody was scared of them. So they had to call a guy, that one of their drivers, I guess, that likes snakes, to come to the warehouse and catch all of these snakes. And he come and he delivered the snakes to me, and he told me this. He said, I'm the only one that in our warehouse that would get them. I think I got all the snakes. I'm not sure, and I think he did. But they banned my address after that, and I didn't personally choose DHL as a shipping service, and I didn't pack the snakes, so I wasn't really responsible for that. And I think it was kind of a no-no to ship DHL. But these were all non-venomous snakes. And I knew people that would have venomous snakes illegally shipped through the Postal Service. That was a big thing too. They would go to Kentucky or West Virginia or something, get these timber rattlers. They would cut their rattlers off so that they wouldn't rattle in the box. They would ship them, for $5 or $10 or whatever through the Postal Service to whoever in Florida that wanted them. And, copperheads were a big thing, timber rattlers. You might know them as cane brakes. That probably happened with a lot of things, probably cobras and everything. Most people, I guess, didn't get caught. But I'm sure if you did get caught doing that, it would be a pretty bad fine. Though FWC really doesn't play. I've heard them like going to fish meetings, fish clubs, where there are gatherings where, these group of people, they might start a little online or maybe in the past through the newspaper, a fish club, and they're all going to meet at this one person's house this week and somebody else's house next week or next month. And the Wildlife Commission would join these. And, I want to be there. I want to be part of this. And I guess a lot of these fish clubs would trade coral, like hard corals, soft corals, and stuff like that. And they would just raid them and bust them. They would come there, infiltrate them, join their clubs, and bust them for just giving away corals and maybe fish and stuff like that. And this was before they've gotten really, really bad. So I can only imagine, what they're going to, I've heard of them like going to online ads or something and posting wanted, this and that, or if somebody else says I have these rattlesnakes or whatever, and maybe in their state they're legal. They're not legal to ship venomous through the Postal Service, no matter where you're at. And they're not legal in many states. And even where they are legal, you have to have proper permits for them. So California's one that's pretty strict about, I guess, like cobras and stuff. Anything that's non-native. Texas is one where you can have quite a bit of stuff. South Carolina is a good place. I think maybe Pennsylvania. There may be some other ones. Hawaii is a terrible place to get anything non-venomous, venomous, or anything non-native. They pretty much ban. Because, it's not like a tropical paradise. Almost anything can survive there, just like South Florida. So anyway, the natural progression of, at the time of being into majorly being into reptiles and then getting licensed is, maybe moving toward venomous snakes, and people often ask, what's my starter snake? What should it be? Should it be like a mangrove cat snake, or should it be a copperhead, a false water cobra, whatever? And believe it or not, false water cobras are actually legal in Florida without a permit, but they have gotten outrageously priced lately. So you may not be able to afford one. That copperheads, pygmy rattlers, timber rattlers, western diamondbacks, prairie rattlers, maybe a few others, were the kind of initiation snakes back in the day. Not that all of them were like super non-lethal or whatever, but because I guess maybe there was just an overabundance of them. So people would just say, hey, this would be a nice first snake for you. You just got licensed or whatever. I'm going to give you some copperheads or maybe a cottonmouth. Timber, we just imported, 5 pregnant timber rattlers, and they all had babies. Here, take a couple of them, or cane brakes. So that's kind of how it used to happen. Now there's so much paperwork involved with just transferring, exchanging, a venomous snake to another venomous snake, person legally. So it kind of sucks. People still do it illegally. They'll go to South Carolina, go buy a bunch of venomous snakes, bring them back, hide them somewhere in a basement, maybe up north, or who knows, in a garage here in Florida. The thing about me is that I never showed off my collection. I never did it for show. And I really honestly don't know what I would do if I would have grew up in the YouTube era, you know, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever era, Instagram, TikTok. But as someone that is becoming middle-aged, I really do not see myself promoting something that could get me maybe more views on and make money on YouTube, but at the same time kind of disrupt the industry if I get bit or get bit multiple times. Some of these people on YouTube may do it just for show. You know, they're not getting bit for show, but they're getting bit and they're saying, I'm going to document this. Wow, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are going to view, I got bit by a king cobra and I survived. Here's my weeks-long ordeal or months-long or whatever. I had the tip of my finger cut off because I got bit by a pygmy rattler. You know, it is what it is, but there, you know, back in the day, there was a different mindset and a different, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, a different idea or ideals maybe for, you know, how do we justify putting ourselves in danger? That might be the question that, you know, and in the olden days, they would say, hey, if you are trying to force feed an animal or medicate it or treat it and get bit, you got bit because you were doing the right thing. But now it's different. Now it's if you get bit, we're going to blame you for the new laws that come and hit all of us in the state, and then other states, which we've seen with like tegus and stuff, follow suit. I don't want that burden on me of like disrupting the industry, you know, because eventually it's probably going to just fall out completely. If the tegu iguana industry, you know, they started with the large pythons, you know, reticulated, African rock pythons, Burmese pythons, green and I guess yellow anacondas, and maybe a few others, scrub pythons or whatever. Not sure about that, but I think it's at least one of the large, like Australian pythons, they also banned or they're in this classification where a lot of people were grandfathered, you know, people that were set up as kind of like a zoo or educational facility could like still get permitted for them. But yeah, it's, you know, when I grew up, I could go buy a yellow anaconda, I could buy an African rock python, 1,000 reticulated pythons, millions and millions of Burmese, now albino Burmese pythons. They were in every single pet store. Box turtles were in every pet store, even though you can't buy and sell them now in Florida. And a lot of other things. Probably, you know, tegus would come in every once in a while. Iguanas were in every pet store. You could buy the little things for like $5 or $10 that were most likely going to die in 2 weeks. You know, unless you got really lucky and got them, you know, unless you were an expert of, you know, all the UVB, calcium, dietary stuff, heating, and, you know, parasitic treatments and all that stuff. Now, if you got an iguana that was a little bit bigger and a little more wild, they had some, you know, of their, you know, they already had calcium in their bones from the wild and, you know, had, you know, a few years of growing and, you know, then, you know, it was a little bit easier, but they were, you know, obviously a little bit more wild and harder to tame down, if at all. That's how I got my iguana from years and years ago, which I haven't had in years. I got it at like 2.5, 3 feet. It never tamed down. It was faster than lightning. It would scratch you up. It would try to bite you and never calmed down. It was healthy, just fine, ate fine. I just got tired of it after a few years because he wasn't doing, you know, he wasn't a pet that I wanted. You know, he wasn't being a pet. But baby ball pythons and baby green iguanas were just imported by the millions, and many of them had already, you know, most likely died before they ever hit a pet shop, and they're sick when they hit the pet shops. It's a nightmare scenario. And, you know, tarantulas were a big thing, rose hair tarantulas and stuff. They were imported like crazy. I bought plenty of them for like, Doug, the place I was talking about, Hogtown Herpetological Society, sometimes had sales, 5 for $15. So I could get 5 grown rose hair tarantulas, most likely all females, for $15. Huh, where are you going to find that? Where are they grown now for 100, 200, $300 for a mature female? So they're not really imported that much. We have so many problems with illegal imports of tarantulas. I mean, there's an insect documentary on one of the free streaming services. Maybe I'll have to look that up and post it here eventually. That talks about the illegal, you know, tarantula trade and insect trade. Just like every other business as well, once you go from buyer or customer, where everybody's happy that you're paying money and spending money on them, and if you got a trade in or something, they're going to kind of rip you off and they're going to be happy. To competition, it's a cutthroat competition like everything else. Just like the plant nursery business, just like, you know, dog breeders or whatever. There's like, it is bad. It is bad. And, you know, people in the reptile business community, breeders, pet shops, they like to put on a united front, you know, with all of these lawsuits. But the truth is, so many of them are jealous of each other, and so many of them talk crap to, you know, about each other when they're not standing in front of them. So much jealousy is going on, and I don't like that. I like to live in harmony and peace, and that was not the most, you know. And you know what's weird is, you know, there are people, like I said, they're jealous, but you know, if they want something that you have, they'll try to trade, and, or I should say, they always try to trade. They never want to spend their money, but they will try to get the best end of the deal. I mean, I've given in before and just traded, you know, and hopefully that I got the best end of the deal. Sometimes just because I might have had like a mature female breeder. I think I had like a mature female Kenyan sand boa. Somebody wanted it really bad. He traded me like, you know, all kinds of stuff for it, you know, way more than it was worth. And as far as money value goes, so that's fine. We noticed, you know, even in the Avery trade, people do that all the time. People see you have a macaw and they want to trade you 25 freaking cockatiels for it, or 10 cockatiels or whatever, you know. Here is a, you know, I don't know what their prices are now here, but we'll say back then their prices $500 to $600 macaw, $25 or $15 cockatiel. Well, we'll give you 25 cockatiels. How long is it going to take you to sell 25 cockatiels? You know, you may not sell near as many macaws, you know, in the same time frame as you can sell 2 or 3 cockatiels. But when you sell one, and up north, people will pay more money if you're willing to ship it up north via like Delta. And they don't have the same restrictions as venomous. So you can go to a local airport and ship it, just like a lot of exotic animals and stuff. You just can't ship venomous to all of them. So everybody wanted to trade and nobody wanted to give, I'm talking still about the Avery stuff. Everybody wanted to trade. All the dealers wanted to trade. It seemed like your biggest business is from trades from people that do not want to spend a dime. So it's everywhere. If you're thinking of starting a business, or if you had bad experiences with other businesses, you could be just making t-shirts, ironing your own custom t-shirt logos or something like that. And here's another guy over here selling them. Boop, y'all are now enemies. That's how it works everywhere. They will try to cut you out. They will try to talk crap about you, put your business down. Probably, nowadays they probably use reviews, give them bad reviews on Google or something. So back to the venomous stuff. It wasn't worth it for me to reapply for the venomous license. I had everything filled out, found all my paperwork to submit, and I think there was a delay in me submitting it, or it would have already been gone, and we would have been through the inspection process and all that. But I'm kind of glad because, here's the thing. Reptiles have been part of my life, just kind of weaved in and out for, the entirety of my life, I would say. But now that I have kids and I've learned, you do not go from newborn to, he can feed himself, to he can clothe himself, get his clothes ready for school, go, all this stuff. And now he's making the actual food versus just spoon feeding himself. There isn't, you don't really, you look for those things when you don't know any better, from sleeping 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at a time, waking up every 2 hours to feed them. Once you go to another level, it seems like there's relief, but there's always something. The older they get, there's more stuff that takes your time. They start getting into stuff. A toddler or a 2-year-old might just, terrible twos and tantrums and fits and all that, and taking things. And then they get old enough to understand that they're not supposed to have stuff. But they go and grab, you put stuff high on a refrigerator or on a high cabinet. They put, a ladder or a chair, and they use that as a ladder. And they can get up there way up to the top. And now they're taking things, snacks or whatever it is, toys that were taken away from them. And all of a sudden, you're going to have to start getting them up for school every morning. And sometimes driving them to school if they go to private school or whatever. And then next we're going to be facing like baseball, football games, going to their events, maybe like concerts or whatever. So when you're in that position, you may not have time to open up a venomous business or a venomous hobby, or get majorly into, even like as pets, we had to get rid of our goats for a variety of reasons, but, having kids and trying, and, having someone in a wheelchair that I was also taking care of, it was kind of hard. So it eased a lot of our burden just by getting rid of the goats. But we don't need to replace goats with going through this trouble, this venomous, the laws, the inspections, and going through all that. No, no, no. If I was really in love with the hobby, like a maximum 10 out of 10 in love, dedicated to that hobby, I would move to another state. All right, I think this is a really long video, so we're going to stop it here.